So, yes, but before I continue explaining, please take all of this with a grain of salt. It is all very cutting-edge stuff, and a lot of the stuff still needs to be verified. So most of our studies with the God centers of the brain are basically all the same thing. We take someone who's having a religious experience, and we map their brain and see what centers end up lighting up. This is what the God Helmet experiment originally did. It looked at the brain undergoing a religious experience and tried to zero in on a God spot that would allow someone to feel religion when activated. And for a while it was really breakthrough stuff, but in 2012 we tried to replicate it in a double-blind study and it didn't work so well. And this quashed the idea that there was any one God center in the brain. But our studies didn't stop, so instead we started doing the same thing again, seeing people have religious experiences and making a brain map. The next working theory was that the God center of the brain was a combination of centers in the brain working together, kind of like cognition, or recalling emotional memory. All of these things require multiple centers of the brain to work together to produce an effect. In 2018, neurobiology researchers in Columbia and Yale basically revisited this and started looking at the parietal lobe. They did this by looking at the brain maps of extremely religious people like Buddhist monks or Catholic nuns. And they found some interesting things. Notably, they found that when people were having religious experiences, the parietal lobe would light up like a Christmas tree, but the part of the brain that was responsible for having a sense of self, for recognizing yourself, shut down. And they theorized that this was what created the sensation of being connected to something bigger than yourself. At this point, the theory was refined not to be a God spot, but a God pathway. A pathway of neurons that basically lights up and tells the brain to act in a certain way to create a religious experience. In 2021, researcher Michael A. Ferguson published another study in the Journal of Biological Psychiatry. This study studied almost 200 people with brain lesions, and that's a little weird, but it was necessary for the study. And they found that there was basically a neurological circuit that created religious experiences. And specifically, that circuit needs to be triggered, and it creates kind of a cascade through the brain that creates the experience. And the root of that circuit was in the brainstem, the non-thinking part of our brain. Dumbass lizard brain. Which led to a conclusion that this feeling of being connected to something while evaporating your sense of self is useful from a mental health level, even for animals, and that it might have evolved in us as a way to manage stress. The circuit is also attached to parts of the brain responsible for altruism and pain management, so that would support the theory. Of course, Ferguson has also been criticized for overanalyzing his own results. It's important to note that these results hold true even if you're not religious. It's just a biological response. So you could stimulate this circuit in an atheist and they won't believe in God, but they will feel connected to the universe in a positive way.